Many times we believe that our body needs are more intense than they really are. And many people get mad with their bodies and they're trying to change it constantly. Been there, done that. And we might ask questions like, why am I always hungry? Can I lose some weight? Can I get more muscles? I don't like my body shape. I want to change. Can I sleep more? Can I sleep less? I want to exercise more. I need to rest more. Can you identify with any of that? I do. I've done this for many of my years in my life before I learned how to renew in action and how to keep my body, heart, and mind and soul in balance. And this particular teaching is about the body level and how do we prepare in the morning at the body level and some of the layers that are sometimes blocking us to do that. Of course, sometimes the doctor might recommend to change our habits and to address the body in a more drastic way. I'm not really addressing that, always being in connection and touch base with your doctor. This is more about our day-to-day living and how to clarify the misconception between the needs of our body and our emotional needs, the one level today, and the other one, I would suggest some basic body simple needs so we can prepare for giving. And if you don't know me, I'm Dr. Ioana Popa from Team for the Soul, and I love the mixture of science, psychology, spiritual care, and ancient Christian faith. And I invite you to join me weekly in this conversation about renewal, how to do that in action while we keep regenerating with the purpose to keep giving to others for the world to be a better place. So thank you for being in this space. All right, so our bodies are programmed to operate in amazing ways, unless, of course, there's a disease where we check with our doctors. And as a physician, I've always been in amazement since I was in medical school and in awe about how beautiful and how complex our bodies are. And at the same time, also, I've been amazed by the elegance and the effectiveness of our bodies. If you're a parent, an educator, a leader, you know how difficult it is to synchronize a family, a classroom of students, or a team to do a common task. If you try to leave your house along with your loved ones at the exact time that you plan, are you able to make it? If so, congratulations. I applaud you. You're amazing. But for most of us, there is a back and forth. We forget. Could it be our wallet, our keys? The little ones might forget their teddy bear. The older ones might still be on the phone, checking news or whatever. Or if you're in a classroom, right? How long does it take for everyone to be together or the team to make sure we're all communicating? And magnify all this by trillion times. I mean, just the thought of that, this could be a nightmare. But what's amazing, this is not at the body level. We're talking about trillions of cells all synchronized in the same time. I mean, if you just pause and think, trillions of cells, the heart cells, they know what they're doing and they're synchronized, and the blood vessels, they know what they're doing, all the muscles, our digestive system, our respiratory systems, our eyes, our brain, like it is just mind-boggling. All the activities at the body level are synchronized, are so beautiful and coordinated on multiple levels of hierarchy. And in general, the way its function is just so beautiful and elegant. And that's one of the reasons I love biology. I mean, biology can be so complex, and you think about, oh my goodness, this equation, that equation, and this system and that system, and it feels so complex. But it's just a reflection of this reality, which is so complex and so beautiful. And I love to think of our body as having an intelligence in its own. So the body is so intelligent and its needs are actually fairly simple because the body is so coordinated. And I would outline them shortly. But before, I want to share that it doesn't feel that way, does it? It feels like our needs in our body are much more complex and we get into some cycles. So I want to unpack this. So the misconception I want to really cover today is this idea of body versus emotional needs. In my experience, our emotional needs are the ones that are clouding the process and creating some complex, unhelpful cycles. Not that our emotions are bad, it's just this mixture between our emotional needs and body needs. When we perceive them from our mind, they kind of look the same, but they're not, and they're separate. And that's what I invite us today to think of them as separate. And that's the most important step in order to disentangle for the different unhelpful cycles. And I'll give you some examples of unhelpful cycles. As human beings, we may be eating at our regular time, and then an hour or two later, or when we come home from work, we might have had a stressful day. We might snack or overeat, have second or thirds, or have sweets or whatever. And then we eat too much, and then we gain weight. But then we feel more hungry. A few decades ago, I would finish my lunch or dinner, and then an hour later, I was hungry again. I'm like, how is this possible? I just ate. I knew the physiology. How is this possible? And of course, the more we eat and get into this treadmill of overeating, then we try to lose weight then. And then we go into diets, and then we might starve ourselves, even for a short amount of time. And this is when the yo-yo diet, you might have heard this term, comes in. This is an example of an unhelpful cycle, right? Because we eat extra because of emotional needs. And then we create more problems to ourselves. If we would eat just to satisfy our body needs and then take care of our emotional needs separately, that is so much easier to disentangle. I'll give you another example of unhelpful cycle. Sometimes we are just tired at the end of the day and we just want to relax. And what's so much easier and brainless, kind of, we just go put a show on our iPad or on a TV or watch YouTube or watch news, and then another one and another one, right? They have a very interesting way to keep us hooked into that. The next video will pop in immediately. So before we know it, we're hooked and we're going to watch several more. Then we push past our bedtime. Then we sleep less. Then we wake up in the morning with less energy, sometimes no energy at all. It is difficult to wake up. We might feel like we don't even want to work and cannot wait until the end of the day. We can relax. And then we come in, watch more shows, more news, and then we're reinforcing our own cycle of being tired. Or my last example is we might feel so tired that we cannot even move and exercise. We know it will be good for us to exercise even a little bit, but then we don't move. And then when we don't move, we can feel more and more tired. Eventually, could be sore or just feel like, okay, we got to get back in shape. And then we exercise for a while. We can push ourselves and go into a frenzy and exercise too much and overdo it. And then we might be sore or might get into such a regimen that after a while, as the season change, we might actually not be able to hold on to that regimen. And then we stop. And then we go again to a cycle. It's hard to start exercising and so on and so forth. So we create these complex cycles and we can see the consequences of our habits on a body level. And then when we're trying to correct with drastic measure, we do it on a body level. But later this backfires and keeps us into unhelpful cycles. And in spiritual tradition, this is called, and many of them call it passions or temptations from the evil one. Or we might get in this idea that our body is bad and we have perpetual desire to change it. I mean, everything that's happening in the culture showing the perfect bodies. This is unprecedented that we can see all those perfect bodies from different humans in such a way that we get dissatisfied with our own bodies and get into a body self-improvement treadmill. And that can actually not be helpful either. So there's nothing wrong with improving ourselves, don't get me wrong, but if we're trying to further grow and improve ourselves, this is great. But if we're reinforcing this idea that there's something bad in our body or parts of our bodies, then we're reinforcing those stories, either on a secular level or a spiritual level, that something is wrong with us or there's something evil going on. So I want to demystify this because there is a misconception here that sometimes it's subconscious and we don't really realize. The common misconception is that all our troubles that we're experiencing are happening because something is wrong with our bodies. Of course, there is a body disease at times, so please check with your doctor, but many times there is not. My point as a physician, having seen thousands and 10,000s of bodies, the bodies are beautiful and have a very strong intelligence. And there are simple ways to cut through the chase and stop these unhelpful cycles. So, how do we do that? Many times, what actually feels like a body need is actually an emotional need, an emotional unmet need, and many times conditions from this past. The simple version of the whole point of what I'm saying is that we can identify our emotional needs. And when we take care of them in a meaningful way, we can actually disentangle our bodies from the emotional needs. And we can avoid getting into these unhelpful cycles. What are some of these needs that I'm talking about on an emotional level? I'm just going to name them right here, although in other parts of my teachings, I expand much more on them. But needs to be loved, to be respected, to connect, to feel worthy, to feel comforted, to feel soothed, to love. Those are emotional needs. And no matter how much ice cream or Netflix movies are going to watch, they might be soothing a little bit for a short run, but we're not going to actually take care fundamentally of them. What are the solutions? Twofold for today. As we take care directly of our emotional needs, to be respected, to connect, to feel worthy, to feel comforted, to feel soothed, and we do that directly by connecting to people, improving our skills, work on counseling to befriend our inner critic, find healthy ways to soothe ourselves, etc., we can let our body be what is meant to be and address its needs separately. Of course, the concept is simple and not always easy to implement, but nonetheless, having a clear framework and mindset helps us set goals and find creative ways to take care of ourselves without falling into unhelpful cycles. So mindset is what's most important. Separate the needs and start identifying, be a student of yourself. Is this need really at a body level, or is this an emotional need? When I realized that, oh, my need for snacking has nothing to do with my body need, was just an emotional need, then it was easier for me at least to identify that so I can say, okay, this is really not a need. This is more of a craving. And that helped me to move and make changes in the future. And the second idea, take home message from here is this: the body's needs are simpler than what we think they are. And I'm going to just share a quick list of things to check in the morning at a body level. And of course, we can do that throughout the day. But those are simple needs that we can actually take care of so we can prepare for giving. The list is not comprehensive and doesn't represent medical advice, but it's just kind of a framework. So obviously, please check with your doctor. And here are some of the main points that you might want to double check. Number one, check for your water needs and drink water in the morning. You might have heard this before from me. After 7 and 8 hours of sleep with no water, our bodies get dehydrated. So starting our day with coffee is not usually the best way to do it. It's not going to fulfill a body need. It might fulfill our emotional need, or might love the smell, which I do, but it's not really fulfilling a body need. So starting with water. Number two, check for nutrients and eat less processed food. The body needs are protein, healthy fats, and healthy carbohydrates. When we eat heavily processed food, we get into quick sugar rush into our blood. Then we need more insulin. Then we have a quick sugar crash in the blood. That's why we need a snack right away. And then we experience more hunger and cravings. So this processed food keeps this cycle. When we start eating more healthy and less processed food, the body can reset and lean into its own intelligence. Number three, check for movement needs. A little bit of stretching with fresh air and short exercise, even if we're tired, actually paradoxically can get us moving and get our energy, our body filled with more energy in the morning. It doesn't have to be, if you have time, do it for longer, but it doesn't have to be long, even just 5-10 minutes. And I encourage you to consider that. And of course, with every year, every decade that's going, it's better to keep moving. It helps with muscles, with joints, with our bones. So starting the day with some sort of stretching or movement is important. Number 4, check for fresh air if possible. Now, some parts of the world, that's not a possibility, and the air is polluted. But if possible, if in your area the air outside is fresh, opening windows, having indoor plants, this can help with fresh air and oxygen. Number 5, check for rest. On average, humans, we need about 7 to 8 hours. I don't like that. I wish I could go away with just 5-6 hours. There's so many things I want to do in the day, but my body keeps insisting that I need 7-8 hours, 8 hours to be more precise. And it's kind of like that. This is it. Now, not everyone has the luxury of sleeping 7-8 hours. Some people have insomnia. Some people have a hard time. They wake up in the middle of the night. So obviously, if that's you, check with your doctor. Keep working on that. But if it is possible, let's create the conditions for our bodies and to sleep and not push our bedtime too late. Number 6, check for temperature for the day and dress in layers if you need to. And number 7, take your medication and supplements as prescribed by your doctor. All right, so quick summary, the main points for this week. 1, learn to distinguish between your body's needs and your emotional needs and take care of them separately. No matter how many pints of ice cream we might eat or how many Netflix shows or movies you're going to watch, if the need is for human connection, no amount of ice cream or show is going to fix that. So let's go to the root of our needs. And you can do that just by asking, what is my need right now? How is my heart doing? And usually we get some answers. And if you don't, talk with someone that you trust to kind of disentangle that and find that. The second summary point is the body's needs are more simple than we think. And as we find ways to take care of the body's needs directly, we can rely more and more on its own intelligence. And the last point, kind of the overarching for the whole discussion for today, treat your body with respect, dignity, and compassion. Many faith traditions invite that, and my favorite one is the ancient Christian faith, which reminds us that our bodies are made in the image of God and are a reflection of goodness. There's goodness in our body. So unless there's a disease, we can lean and trust that our bodies know what to do and what they know to do, what they're intended to do. So keep their needs simple and disentangle from emotional needs. And with that, I wish you a wonderful day and week of preparing for giving so that you can be of more help and give to others while you're in balanced, renewed, and replenished. So until next time, I say goodbye for now.